Okay, get this. There's a moment that doesn't look dramatic at all, but it changes everything. Someone who's been through too much finally sits down. Could be on a bed, a bus seat, the cold bathroom floor. Doesn't matter where. What matters is why. They're not tired in the normal sense. It's deeper than that. Something inside them quietly gives way. Not a breakdown you can hear. No crying, no screaming. It's more like a bridge that's been holding weight it was never meant to carry, and it just folds. If you've ever felt that, even once, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The heart doesn't shatter. It whispers. It says, I can't hold all of this at the same time. And the wild part? Most people don't even realize they've become that person until life forces them to notice. Someone asks, why are you so calm about things that should bother you? And you don't know how to explain that it's not calm. It's not peace. It's numbness. It's what happens when your emotions have run marathon after marathon with no finish line. People think resilience looks strong. But when you've gone through too much, resilience feels more like survival. Something you didn't choose. Something that chose you. And that changes the way you see the world, the way you love, the way you carry yourself. There's a depth behind your eyes that others can feel but can't explain. And once you notice it in yourself, you can't unsee it. That quiet collapse we talked about doesn't just disappear after it happens. It becomes a reference point. From that moment on, life feels different, like your nervous system rewrote the rules without asking you. You sit there, staring at nothing, and you don't even feel dramatic about it. There's no urge to call someone or explain yourself. You just exist in the stillness, because your mind has finally hit its limit. And that's usually when people start noticing something about you. They'll say things like, you're so calm, or nothing ever seems to shake you. But what they're seeing isn't calm. It's not peace. It's the quiet numbness that shows up after your emotions have been stretched way past what they were built to handle. It's the stillness that comes from being overwhelmed too many times and realizing that reacting loudly only makes things harder. Most people think resilience means strength, like some heroic trait you're proud of. But when you've gone through too much, resilience feels automatic. Like breathing. You didn't wake up one day and decide to be strong. You adapted because there was no other option. And because of that, you carry something people can sense even if they can't explain it. There's a gravity to you, a depth behind your eyes, a softness in how you listen, a pause before you answer questions, like you're measuring your words carefully. You learn how to fold emotions into tight corners of your mind just so you can keep moving forward. And here's where it gets wild. That survival instinct starts shaping your psychology in ways you don't even realize at first. That gravity people sense in you doesn't come from wisdom you chased. It comes from weight you were forced to carry. From the outside, you might look mature, thoughtful, like you've got your life together. People assume you're grounded. But if they could step inside your internal world for even a minute, they'd realize that this version of you wasn't developed gently. It was extracted under pressure. Some people grow because they're nurtured. Others grow because life refuses to give them the childhood or emotional safety that everyone else seems to get. And when you live under that kind of emotional load for too long, something shifts in the way your mind organizes itself. Psychologists call part of this emotional overcompensation, but in real life, it feels like being constantly braced for impact. Your nervous system learns to stay alert. You become hyper-aware of tone changes, facial expressions, silences. You prepare for problems that haven't happened yet, not because you're negative, but because uncertainty once felt dangerous. Your mind didn't build these defenses consciously. They just showed up one day like automatic software updates you never approved. And even when life gets better, those defenses don't fully disappear. They linger, like old architecture beneath a renovated building. You might heal, you might grow, but parts of your mind still scan for exits, still anticipate emotional shifts before they arrive. People call it intuition, but most of the time it's pattern recognition learned through necessity. Here's the part most people miss. Those traits aren't personality quirks. They're survival responses, and they quietly shape how you move through the world in ways that will matter later, especially in how you connect with other people. Once those survival responses settle in, they start showing up everywhere, especially in how you relate to other people. You carry what feels like an invisible curriculum, lessons you never signed up for but somehow mastered anyway. You know how to read a room before anyone says a word. You can feel tension before it turns into conflict. You step around emotional landmines the same way someone steps around broken glass. You become the person who can calm others down even while your own heart is racing. You know how to make yourself smaller when attention feels unsafe. You recover quickly from disappointment, not because it doesn't hurt, but because life never gave you the luxury of falling apart. And over time, these reflexes get mistaken for who you are. People think, that's just your personality. But it's not. It's training. It's adaptation. A lot of this wiring starts early. When someone lives through prolonged stress or emotional overload, the brain recalibrates. It becomes more sensitive to threat, more reactive to subtle cues, more focused on patterns others ignore. That's why you overthink. That's why you notice shifts in tone. That's why you prepare for outcomes that may never happen. Your mind learned that being unprepared once came at a cost. There's also a tenderness that develops alongside all this. A gentleness that only comes from knowing pain up close. Not in theory, but in experience. And that softness gets misunderstood all the time. People mistake it for weakness. But softness like that isn't born from an easy life. It comes from carrying heavy moments and choosing not to harden completely. But here's where the contradiction starts to deepen. Because that same tenderness often hides something else entirely. Behind that tenderness is exhaustion. Not the kind you fix with a good night's sleep, but the kind that settles into your bones after being strong for too long. It's an internal exhaustion you rarely talk about because you've learned how to function through it. You don't collapse outwardly. You retreat inwardly. You become someone who can carry everyone else's emotions but struggles to carry your own. You're great at giving clarity, advice, reassurance. But when it comes to asking for help, your mind goes blank. Not because you don't trust people, but because relying on someone else once felt unpredictable. And unpredictability, for someone who has gone through too much, feels like the start of instability. That's why emotional independence becomes your default setting. From the outside, it looks like confidence, like you've got it all handled. But on the inside, it's protection, a shield, the safest option in a world that taught you early that depending on others could hurt. You learn to self-soothe, self-analyze, self-correct. Not because you want to, but because you had to. And this creates a strange duality. The world sees someone capable, composed, grounded. Your inner world knows someone sensitive, tired, quietly overwhelmed. You live with emotional contradictions every day. You can be open yet guarded, caring yet detached, present yet distant, hopeful yet cautious. And you juggle all of it without anyone realizing how heavy it feels. But here's where things get even more complicated. Because this independence doesn't stop at self-protection. It starts shaping how you handle vulnerability itself. When it comes to vulnerability, people who have gone through too much don't avoid it because they hate it. They avoid it because history taught them that opening up came with consequences. Disappointment, misunderstanding, emotional imbalance. Vulnerability wasn't something shared equally. It felt like a risk you carried alone. So you learn to open up slowly, carefully, deliberately. You reveal yourself in layers, not to manipulate, but to protect yourself. And from the outside, this can look confusing. Some people think you're closed off. Others think you're distant. But the truth is you're measuring safety, not interest. And here's the part almost nobody tells you. There is nothing broken about you. Your reactions make sense. Your caution makes sense. Your depth makes sense. Psychological adaptation is not a flaw. It's a response. When someone has lived through too many heavy chapters, their inner world becomes complex. Their emotions become nuanced. Their perspective becomes layered in ways others may never fully see. Despite everything, there's something deeply beautiful about this psychology. People like you often love quietly but intensely. You appreciate small kindnesses more than grand gestures. You notice details others overlook. You value emotional sincerity because you've seen what pretending costs. You cherish peace because you know what chaos feels like. And maybe the most remarkable thing is this. You keep going. Not because you're unbreakable, but because you've already been broken before and found a way to stand anyway. But hold up, because beneath that strength, there's something most people never notice. Underneath all that quiet strength lives something rarely acknowledged. Grief, not always the kind that comes from losing a person, but the kind that comes from losing versions of yourself. The version who trusted easily, the version who felt carefree, the version who believed things would work out without needing a backup plan. That grief doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly and shapes how you move through the world. This is why you hesitate before happiness. Why comfort makes you pause instead of relax. Even when things are going well, part of your mind asks, is this real? Not because you're pessimistic, but because your nervous system memorized a pattern where good moments were often followed by difficult ones. So it stays alert even when the ground feels solid. This shows up strongly in relationships. You care deeply, sometimes more deeply than you let on. But you imagine endings before beginnings fully form. You apologize too quickly. You forgive too easily. You stay quiet about your needs because you don't want to be a burden. When someone asks, "What do you need?" you genuinely struggle to answer because you never learned to prioritize yourself without guilt. And yet, the way you love is rare, steady, loyal, quietly intense. You notice emotional shifts before words are spoken. You show up in subtle ways that matter. But that sensitivity comes with a cost. You're easily wounded by inconsistency, not cruelty, not hostility, carelessness, because inconsistency feels like the first step toward abandonment. And here's where it all connects. Because when you react strongly to something small, it's never just about the present moment. When someone who's been through too much reacts intensely to something small, they're not reacting to now. They're reacting to echoes, old moments where they felt unsafe, unseen, or unprotected rise up in the background. The body remembers patterns long before the mind finds words for them. So a tone change, a delay, a small shift can trigger a response that feels bigger than the situation in front of you. But instead of explaining this, you stay quiet. You hide your triggers. You smile through discomfort. You prioritize harmony because being misunderstood feels worse than being uncomfortable. You don't want to be labeled too sensitive or dramatic, so you learn to keep your storms private. Here's the irony. The same people who hide their own emotional weight often become the emotional anchors for everyone else. Friends come to you with their deepest fears, their confusion, their heartbreak, and you hold it all gently without judgment because you understand. You've lived through things that forced you to become emotionally literate long before you were ready. That emotional literacy gives you a kind of vision. You can see through masks. You can sense when someone's "I'm fine" really means they're not okay. You feel tension others ignore. And while this ability helps you connect deeply, it also means you absorb more than your share. Over time, this creates a quiet exhaustion. Not dramatic burnout, but subtle withdrawal. You talk less. You laugh softer. Your presence feels lighter, like you're slowly trying not to take up too much space. And this is where the story shifts again. Because this exhaustion doesn't mean weakness. That quiet withdrawal isn't weakness. It's endurance. It's the kind of strength that doesn't announce itself or ask to be admired. People who have gone through too much don't carry loud resilience. They carry the kind that wakes up again, shows up again, and keeps going even when the tank feels empty. They've lived through too many emotional winters to be afraid of the cold. They've rebuilt themselves from ruins more than once, and that leaves a mark most people never see. What truly shapes their psychology isn't just what they survived, but how deeply they reflect on it. They don't just move on from pain. They analyze it. They turn it into insight. They search for meaning in difficult memories and clarity in chaos. And that creates a worldview that is both fragile and powerful. Fragile because it comes from real wounds. Powerful because it produces real wisdom. They understand that people are complicated, that emotions are layered, that everyone is carrying something unspoken. This doesn't make them naive. It makes them compassionate, forgiving not because they lack boundaries, but because they comprehend where pain comes from. Yet beneath all that understanding lies an invisible grief. The grief of losing earlier versions of themselves. the carefree version, the trusting version, the one who didn't brace for impact. Still, they grow, quietly, intentionally. They learn boundaries. They learn self-worth. They learn to tell the difference between instinct and old survival patterns. And slowly, they realize something freeing. They are not broken. They are adaptive, insightful, emotionally complex in a world that prefers simplicity. People who have gone through too much don't just survive life. They interpret it. And in doing so, they often become a source of calm, clarity, and understanding for others. Not because they're perfect, but because they know darkness. And if you are one of them, here's the truth. You didn't just go through too much. You grew through it. And that growth, even if it came from pain, is now your quiet power.